Welcome to feasting, a celebration of life. The Hebrew scriptures in Proverbs 15:15 tell us that he who is of a merry heart has a continual feast. If we have a condition labeled as a merry heart, a joyful heart, God tells us that we will enjoy a continual feast.
Welcome to Feasting. I'm your host, Carrie Steele, joined here by Cindy Steele, who affectionately goes by Bubby. She's not only Bubby to her grandchildren, but really to the community at large, which leads me to say, Bubby, we are here in your kitchen. What are we cooking today?
Well, what do you expect? Challah, of course, that's Bubby's thing. I love challah. It's amazing. God created challah, it's just an amazing thing. But do you mind if I give you a little Hebrew lesson?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, the word challah comes from the Hebrew word hol, which means common and ordinary. Now, any of you who have eaten challah know it's anything but common and ordinary. It's amazing. But I think the common aspect of it is that Jewish women, especially observant Jewish women, all over the world make challah every week to present to their families at Shabbat. And it's actually a mitzvah. Do you know what a mitzvah is?
No, please. What's
a mitzvah is a commandment. Jewish women are commanded to do this, just like their husbands are commanded to pray. And a ritual prayer, they actually are commanded to make the bread. And they make it and they put it on their tables, 2 loaves that represent symbolically how God provided a double portion of manna in the weekends during the wilderness wanderings. So that's what we're going to do today. For me, it reminds me that God is in control and that he is providing everything I need. He helps me to do everything that I need to do. And that his presence is in the middle of it. It's like you sense his presence as you're putting your hands in the dough, and that he chose us and gave us something that we can do. He gave us the ability to create. And so when I'm putting my hands in the dough, I'm creating as a vehicle to shed his love and spread his love to other people. So, are you ready?
I am beyond ready.
All right, so we're going to start with, let's get the water. And the water needs to be lukewarm. So we're going to add about 2, if you have little envelopes of yeast, just put one of those in. But this is 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. Okay. We're going to put that in and just kind of stir it up. And let that sit actually for like 15 minutes. And then while this is sitting, we're going to take our eggs.
Okay.
And we're going to pour them in here and mix them up. And then we're going to pour that in here. Okay, so we've got the eggs, and we're going to add 1/2 cup of oil, 1/2 cup of sugar, and a heaping teaspoon of salt, okay? So we are going to mix those up. You want to mix that up for me?
Yes, please. Thank you. So you were saying earlier it's very important to mix this by hand, right? That you shouldn't use any mixers or...
The kneading, let me tell you, a lot of recipes will say, put it in your bread dough maker or your mixer. That's not challah. You have to have your hands in the dough. You have to do it with your hands. Because, as I was saying, to sense God's presence when you're doing this, it's almost like an act of worship. You've got your hands in the dough, you have time, you're actually you're preparing to rest, actually, what you're doing. As you're getting ready to make this challah, you're preparing to rest. We have to prepare for rest. So challah's like the beginning of it, you know?
All right, so how did I do on this?
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our yeast mixture to that, okay? So we're going to pour that in. And make sure you've got all the stuff out of there. Set that aside. You go ahead and mix that up.
Is there any special technique to stirring, or?
Actually, nope, that's great. It's actually, I had somebody tell me, oh, challah, I can't make challah. It's so hard. It's actually not hard. It's just learning to do it. And it's the best bang for the buck of anything I know.
Do I want to get all the lumps out, or?
It's fine.
That's
great.
It's good as is?
Yes. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to let you take this.
Okay.
And one at a time, add a cup.
Okay.
Let's scoot that over here. There we go.
That's Bubby being Bubby.
Sorry. Okay.
All right, so I have a little more than a cup.
And it doesn't have to be
Isn't
perfect.
perfect? So here we go.
Around a cup at a time.
No technique, just toss
Nope.
it in there.
And we're going to stir.
All right. How many of these am I doing?
We have 9 cups of flour.
9 cups.
And
that
it's
was one.
bread flour.
Bread flour.
Yes, bread flour is important. We're going to release the glutens. And if you're gluten-free, sorry.
I'm all about the gluten.
Okay, so one at a time, just add about a cup.
All right. 3.
You don't even need to count. Just
So when you make this for your grandkids, how specific do you get with the measurements, or are you?
Oh, I kind of fudge a little bit when they're
Toss it
making
together.
it. I mean, it's wild. We've done challah making for, I don't know, 11 years, 10 years, something like that.
And then you've been making
So-
challah for the community, where people have just been stopping by to pick up a
I
loaf.
just put up, if they can't get bread or whatever, I put challah loaves out in the front and they come by and grab them.
All right, I think I have 2 more. There's one, and then
Actually, I should have gotten I need a wooden spoon. Okay, so we're gonna mix just a little bit
Keep going.
more. And you're gonna mix this until it's, actually that's fine. Just
This is
leave
fine?
that. Yeah, you're perfect.
so leave it or add it.
Yeah, leave it. Yeah, leave it. So I'm gonna stir this up, but see how hard it's getting now?
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting kind of a shaggy dough. So here's where it gets a little messy. So I pour this out onto a solid surface.
Ooh.
And this is the cool part for me. This is what makes it all worthwhile. That's why you don't want to use a bread machine or a mixer.
That really didn't take that long.
No, it's actually a very quick thing. Now, the next part, it will need to wait for a while, but I'll tell you about it. Okay, so we've got this shaggy bunch of dough here. And actually, I'm going to take this ring off here. So we're going to go like this, and this is going to be the kneading process, okay? And this is the part, Carrie, where I don't know how to describe it other than it's worship. It literally is worship as you put your hands in this dough and you feel the foundational kind of thing that God has given us to help us thrive and survive. And so you put your hands in it, and as you're doing it, many weeks, I'll be singing, or I'll be praising the Lord, or I'll be just thanking Him for having wonderful people like you in my life. And so we're just moving it around, and then little by little, just add a little bit of flour.
How little are we getting?
Yeah, like that.
that?
Just sprinkle that on there.
top?
Yep. Just like that. And really, it's not too messy, but as you can imagine with grandkids,
It gets everywhere.
pretty messy.
So how long will we be doing this
You're
for?
going to do this for about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you get carried away and you're going for, 10 minutes. But it really doesn't matter. The more you do it, it releases the gluten and it makes for a fluffier challah.
So I see that not all of it is gathering together. It really looks like it's having folds.
So I'm folding it in and then using the heel of my hand to push it, fold it, push it. Do you want to put your hands on it?
I would love
to. I tell you what, let's put some more of this in.
Okay.
We'll get to the non-messy part and you can feel what it's like.
Okay.
Okay, just keep adding some more.
Oh.
And we're gonna just keep on doing that.
So again, the historical context of this challah and the process. Do you want to go over that one more time?
Well, you mean in terms of that God, it represents God's provision of a double portion of manna. Mm-hmm. That's why there are 2 loaves on the table at the Shabbat dinner. But the Israelites didn't have to go out and get more. He provided 2 portions of the manna. So that's why we make 2 challah loaves.
How were you introduced to challah?
You know, I have known about it for so long, I don't even remember. Probably in Israel. We've been going to Israel for many, many years. And I do, as you know, archaeological digs over there. And so anyway, I've had challah around a long time, and I've tried many recipes.
But you say this one is the finished product. This is the perfect recipe.
This is Alana's recipe, and it is amazing. I've used the same one for a long time, and then my friend Alana said, "Oh, try this," and yeah, this is the one.
And then for people who don't know, you can add things into challah, right?
Oh yeah, and like at Rosh Hashanah, you can turn it into a circle and actually put raisins or craisins or something on it, and it represents the king's crown as we crown God as king
special.
At Rosh Hashanah. But for today, we're doing a typical Shabbat
your basic starter challah.
Yes, and we're only going to do a 3-strand challah. You can do 6, you can do lots of different things, but we'll start out with the 3.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, add a little bit more flour and we'll...
Okay.
So we're going to do this until the dough it just needs to get softened. Mm-hmm. And you'll be able to tell it transforms into this amazing thing. And it usually does take about 5 minutes. Add a little more flour.
Okay.
And we'll fold it in. And it's like, I don't know, there's something about, I don't want to say mystical, but there's something about when you've got your hands in this dough and remembering God's provision. It's just an amazing, amazing thing. So I want you, it's getting softer, so I want you to just kind of put your hands in it.
And there's no way I can mess this up,
no,
right?
No.
Okay.
At this point, you can't do anything.
All right.
To mess it up.
So
just kind of push on it and just feel that dough.
Oh, it feels so soft.
It's amazing. When it's about ready, you'll put your finger in and it'll kind of bounce back.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, and it smells amazing too.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, so
at this point, we finish. I don't even think we need any more flour. I think it's great. Okay.
So now we have our perfect challah ball.
So it's ready to rise.
Okay.
Okay. So then we're going to take it and put it in a greased bowl.
Okay.
Okay. Because it needs to rise.
Okay. What are we greasing it with?
I use canola oil, but just a tiny bit. And make sure when you turn it over that it has a little bit of oil on it. You just kind of turn it around. Put it in there. Cover it with a towel.
Okay.
And I'm going to actually get this
Move
wet.
That up a little here.
Here, the recipe actually rises for 6 hours. Now, sometimes I'll do it when it's 5, but ideally 6 hours.
Okay.
And you're going to just put a damp towel around it, and it's going to rise. And even that process is just a reminder of God's promise to Job 19, that in my flesh, I will see God. That's what Job said. And in Psalm 16, there are, throughout Scripture, there's just sometimes hints, sometimes it slaps you in the face that we are going to see God. We are going to rise again. And right here, this is going to rise over the next 6 hours. Okay, so now we're going to move this out of the way. And I promise I will clean it up eventually. But I'm going to grab some pans that are lined with parchment, and that's important.
Gotcha.
So they won't burn. So we're going to do this, and of course we haven't waited 6 hours, but I have another trusty friend here that's going to help us. So we're going to pull this off, and
Oh, it smells amazing. I can smell it from here.
and this is what we are going to divide up and make into 6 different balls. So at this point, I'm going to grab this here. And Carrie, what I usually do is I just kind of eyeball it, okay?
Okay.
So I just kind of do a little karate chop. And
You're so strong, Bubby.
yeah, oh yeah, that's what they always say. And divide that in half.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take this one, do the same thing, except divide it in 3 parts.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't eyeball it really well, but
Looks
it
good enough.
usually works pretty well. So we're going to.
I won't hold that against you.
1, 2, 3. Okay. And so we'll put that right there.
3 balls.
And then this one. Now you can make small challah. I make challah rolls. You can do all kinds of things. This is how I typically do it. So divide this one and grab this, and those go for here.
All right.
Now, this is the part. Now, if you look, see this guy's really little, so we want to take a little bit of him, add it to this one, and just kind of.
Bubby always making sure everyone shares.
Just kind of make sure they're somewhat even.
Okay.
And then, okay, so what we're going to do now, actually, I need to grab my thing here, do it correctly. Okay, so we're going to take this, and literally, we're just going to roll it
Okay.
into a snake-like form. So we're going to grab the 3 ropes.
Okay.
Pinch it at one end, and then we're going to start lifting. Some people make the mistake of just kind of doing flat challah. What I like to do is make sure the strand lifts up over. See how I'm doing that? And I lift it and go from the outside in to the middle, and then outside in. Outside,
Very
you're
impressive.
braiding hair. If you can braid hair, you can make challah. Okay, so Carrie, we've let these raise for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And we're going to now give it an egg wash. I've preheated the oven to 350, okay? So I'm gonna let you do this. This is 1 egg with a splash of water. So we're gonna just take a brush and just brush them like that.
So am I trying to coat them, not soak them?
You can be sloppy, you can just.
So I don't have to be gentle.
No,
per
just
se?
give a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna use this whole thing.
And it's important to get all of the sides.
Yes, it is, because this is what will make them golden.
All right, so we've got 1 done.
Okay,
Should we move to the next?
we're gonna go over here and just slop it up there. Yeah.
I can definitely tell which one was mine and which one was yours. This one looks close to perfection as it gets. And the other one's just okay.
Been doing it a long time. Okay, let's just
Go, take over for me, take
slop
over.
some more on
I'm not going
there.
fast enough.
You want to make sure you get it on the side.
All right, Bubby.
That's it. And then we're going to set this aside. I'm going to do one kind of a little bit different thing.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to add some sesame seeds. You can add poppy seeds. You can actually do lots of different things. I've put chocolate chips.
Oh, that one's one of our favorites.
We're going to sprinkle the sesame seeds on this. And then we're gonna pop these guys in the oven for, I'm gonna say about 30 minutes, but you it depends on your oven. Depends, 350 is kind of helpful because it usually doesn't burn things too badly. So
Well, that's good.
just 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long it takes. So if you'll hand me the other one, we'll put it in the oven and let these bake. I have some that I made earlier and I'll bring out, we won't wait for them
Whoa.
to cook. So this is
Movie magic?
the finished product
Wow.
right here. So one has the sesame seeds.
That's how
and
big
this-
they get?
Well, as you can see, this one's huge because I didn't get my balls just the same size. So this one's a little bit bigger, but it's okay.
I don't
It's
mind it.
okay.
I don't mind it.
It's okay.
Makes for a bigger sandwich.
And as you can see, the golden color, I mean, it just glorifies our creator. I mean, it just does.
That's so amazing.
And the only thing left is to get a knife and give you a bite.
Well, thank you. While you grab that knife, I just wanted to thank you again for teaching me your friend's recipe. Out of all the recipes you've tried, I mean, this
yes.
is just incredibly special. It's been a blessing to learn this. And now I can make this for my grandkids.
Sure. I'm glad to pass it on. So I'm going to use this serrated knife to cut it. And just so you can
Ooh, a nice big
see
piece.
what it looks like on the inside. So this is the challah.
So I'll take one piece and you'll take one piece?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, this makes the best French bread ever. So
Well, cheers.
cheers to you.
My name is Aviva, and I am born and raised from Toronto, Canada.
My name is Angela Smith, and I hail from the great state of Arizona.
I grew up in a Jewish home, very culturally Jewish.
I was not brought up Jewish. My mom was Italian, raised Catholic, and then became a believer in Jesus, like more relationship with Jesus when I was just in her stomach.
My parents became believers in Jesus when I was 5, and my older sister was 8. So some of my first memories are being in a congregational setting.
And my dad is African American and Native American, so did not grow up in a Jewish home, but had some entrance into Jewish life because when my mom became a believer in Jesus, she heard very quickly about the Jewish roots of her faith. And so she began to search that out.
There was always an overtone and an undercurrent in my life that I was Jewish, but mainly I grew up believing that Jesus was my Messiah, but no connection necessarily to my heritage and my identity.
I would say I was about in my early 20s, and I had gone to a Christian bookstore and just felt like I needed a deeper connection with God and was just kind of prayerfully looking at the books on the shelf. And one book stood out to me. It was called God's Appointed Times. And so I pulled it off the shelf and just started to read, and it was about Shabbat and the holidays. And I just thought, why haven't I been celebrating these things? These are in the Bible. Like, why have I been celebrating all these other holidays and not the ones that Jesus actually celebrated?
If God created Shabbat, he must know better than I do. So I might want to look into it and see what he had intended for us. Yeah.
So later on, I, became a part of a greater community that celebrated Shabbat. And so then I started to celebrate with other people. So Jewish people would invite me in and, I'd get to learn their traditions around Shabbat. And it became more of a community event, which made things so much more rich for me because that date day with the Lord, it's a set apart time, yet, the two greatest commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So then doing it with the community just added to that dimension of all of us celebrating together and being in community together.
But I often have Gentiles over for Shabbat, and one of my favorite things to share with them, and I really mean it with all my heart and soul, is that the house looks better with you in it. And it's, again, Shabbat is really a gift of time, and it's a gift that God gave us when he created the earth. God didn't need to rest, but he knew his creation, his children would.
I would say there's two aspects of Shabbat that have impacted me the most. One is in Isaiah, it talks about, like the prophet says, so blessed are the ones that celebrate Shabbat, including the foreigner that joins himself to the Lord to keep and set apart the Shabbat and, kind of celebrate with God's people. And so for me as a non-Jewish person, that is like, it's just really cool that even the Jewish prophet Isaiah would prophesy of a day that even non-Jewish people are going to be celebrating Shabbat in community with God's people. And that would be a testimony to the world. It even says, like, I will give those foreigners, the non-Jewish people, a place in my house of prayer.
The ways that I prepare for Shabbat is I'll make challah, or I'll think about a menu, and I also think about who will hopefully join me around the table. And that's another beautiful thing, and that Shabbat is not so much, although it's a distinctive gift that I believe God stewarded and gave Jewish people to do, in a pattern and a rhythm and a cycle that he used the people of Israel to teach us through, and for us to learn about. This is something that each one can celebrate every week.
Challah is a highlight of Shabbat, for sure. Especially when my roommate, Aviva, makes challah. She rocks the challah making. So it's just, it's delicious. It pulls apart. It's like steamy when you open, you're tearing it apart and passing it around, remembering that this is the bread that God brought forth from the earth. We don't have to provide it for ourselves on Shabbat. This is a double portion, and we salt it. I remember one time we had like all kinds of different flavored salts that I think my roommate had brought from Israel, and we just, you spend time dipping in the different flavors of salt, and Kerrygold butter is a must for challah.
It's such an honor to share part of my culture and heritage with them, but also it's just a neat opportunity for people to come, usually after a long week, a long day. It's Friday night, and to come and to stay and to linger, and there's no appointed time to leave. And so I love to share and teach a little bit and just break bread with Gentiles that come, and I'm always really touched and moved when people, they have such earnest and open-hearted questions about Jewish lifestyle and the connection to also Messiah and why I observe it. And the best way to learn is to do. And so Shabbat and opening our home is a great entry point for that.
So my second favorite thing about Shabbat, or the most meaningful, is that it's a time different than any other time, kind of a sanctuary time that is set apart just for us to rest. I am a type A, perfectionist person. I want to go, and do all the time. And Shabbat is an invitation to stop doing whatever it is that I'm doing and to acknowledge that God is still running the universe. I don't need to. I can just relax and take a deep breath and remember what he did, even as the creator of the universe, who worked, but then he rested. And so that's the second most meaningful thing I think about Shabbat for me.
I think of Shabbat really as an open invitation, and he uses the table, using food, using the decor, the flowers, the wine, the company. All of these things come together and create a moment that is building friendship, it's building relationship, but also it's a time to take a deep breath and just say, God, I thank you for all the good things this week. I thank you for all the challenging things this week. And we just want to meet with you tonight. And I see it as an intersection and a place every week that God built into the cycle of the week for us to meet with him and meet with one another. And so this is a place when I was in my early 20s, that I felt like this was a place of connection with God, but also with my people.
So the reason that we dip our challah in salt on Shabbat is because salt is a preservative, and it reminds us of how God has preserved the Jewish people, how he's preserved Israel throughout time and has not abandoned them. They haven't been destroyed. They are still a people, and it testifies to his promises.
Sabbath is the celebration of a day ceasing from labor. But much more than that, Sabbath is a day of delighting in God. The Jewish prophet Zephaniah spoke to the Jewish people. In Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 17, we read that God, your Lord, is in the midst of you, the mighty one. He will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. Shabbat Shalom.